Jon Jones been on the tip of my tongue. And there seems to be a changing in the persona. I don't think it's on purpose or it's calculated. I don't think so. Right? If you take a guy in the image business, we're in the image business here, right? You got images that sell. That's what does the business. I understand the sport is the punches and the kicks. I didn't say the sport. I said the business. We're in the image business. You take a guy and you turn what his image is. You've now changed that to whatever degree. And Vince McMahon will call it a character. When Vince McMahon created the Ultimate Warrior and the face paint and the tassels and the long hair, Jim Hellwig, who played the Ultimate Warrior, tried to take that with him in life. He tried to go to other organizations and be the warrior. And Vince said, that's a character that I created and trademarked. I own the character. You can't do it. You can't take the tassels. You can't take the face paint. You can't have my walkout music. You just can't. I own it. And it was a value. Jim sued him. Jim wanted it. Jim didn't draw flies. Jim never sold out anything. Warrior did. Lots of things. Do you see the difference? Now, I hope you do. Well, it seems like a simple concept. Most don't, including Jon Jones. I'm talking about Jon right now, who's doing this. He has no idea what I'm saying. He literally is just going right past. He has no idea what's coming out of Chael's mouth. But it's very relevant. And Vince McMahon, who is the master of this, has said publicly that appearance needs tweaked about every 14 months. And it can be very light. Chris Jericho, one of my favorite entertainers. But Chris Jericho hit that 14-month point and didn't know what to do. He just knew the rule. Just like, I got to change something. He threw a scarf on. And it was as simple as that, guys. He put on a scarf and threw it over his shoulder, and it worked. They sold all sorts of scarves, and people were doing that. Became a part of his gimmick, man. If Jericho walked the ramp and didn't have the scarf on, you'd be disappointed. Simple as that was, he tweaked it, right? Hulk Hogan, the boot to the face, the big leg drop, maybe a slam every now and again. Ripping the shirt off and showing the pythons, but he had to go from a yellow shirt to a black shirt for a period of time. It was a small tweak, but it had to be done. I'm just bringing this to your attention. Vince McMahon went down on one thing you don't want your name associated with, which is sexual charges. He went down in flames. In his personal life, in his financial life, in his it was bad. It was really bad. And 1 year later, he came back with a different hairdo and a pencil-thin mustache. And his message to the world included a multi-billion-dollar board of directors, and they went for it. All of you went for it. His message to the world is that guy. He's pointing to himself from a year ago. The guy did terrible things and he's been thrown out of the company. But I am somebody else. That was his message to a company that just had a valuation of $9 billion, and it worked. It worked. He is somebody else. That person with the new hair and the pencil-thin mustache is not the person, and a simple Google search will tell you that. That is not the person that they ousted 12 months ago. And it's a fascinating thing in the world of psychology, which is what wrestling is, right? Told you the fight business is about images. The wrestling business is about psychology. The business, that's what brings in the money. It's a very interesting concept because Jon Jones now looks different. He didn't mean to. See, it wasn't Vince McMahon that came in with a new stylist and the pencil-thin mustache because he heard a Jimmy Buffett song from the 80s. That's not what happened. He just got lazy and didn't shave as often. He lifted some weights and drank some protein and moved up 40 pounds, which he told us he was going to do. He got 2-3 years older, which would change anybody. He just looks different. He looks different, but I'm accepting him as different. I'm viewing him as different. I'm aware of these things. I'm aware of these things, and he's not even trying to do them like, say, Vince. But they're happening. And I'm giving Jon this whole nother chance. I don't want to do that. I'm resisting, but it's happening. His interviews are different. His gyms are different, right? Life is very different for Jon. He got thrown out of his home gym in Albuquerque with Jackson Wink. It's Coach Wink that booted him. He's still with Jackson. However that ended up working out. But he's at different gyms. He's with different people. I saw him with Maurice Green the other day. Saw him with Walt Harris a month or so before that. I saw him at Henry Cejudo's gym in Arizona a year and a half before that. I'm seeing him in different environments. I'm seeing him looking different. I'm seeing him sounding different. He's getting more aggressive. Turns out he's very upset that he didn't get that Francis fight, which I love. I love to hear that side of Jon. He's competing and he's with a new field and he's looking around. He's waiting for somebody to challenge him. And it's one of the really big problems he's got. The only guy that said his name is Stipe. I mean, he kind of has to go after Stipe. I get that that's the guy with the draw, and I get all the reasons why he would need Stipe, but he also kind of has to do him. And Sergey hasn't said his name. Tom Aspinall said his name, but, Tom dealt with the injury. And when he said it, he was very respectful. It wasn't a challenge. I'm just using for an example. Puts Jon in a tough spot. When you call Jon out, there's a real angry guy inside there. There's an angry guy that Colby Covington told you back in college used to throw people through windows, right? I'm like, there's an angry guy in there, but you gotta wake him up. He's really interesting once he's woken up. The way he's come after Francis Ngannou, who he can't even fight with, but he's pissed at him. He's angry now. Just because you're scared of Francis doesn't mean Jon is, and he's starting to show you that. It's just interesting. I'm just pointing that out. And I was asked what Jon's greatest body of work was. Right after I was asked that, I was told that it was his last fight. Now, that could be true. Jon's fight with Rashad was good. Jon's victory over Shogun, dipping and going to the body. I'm like, come on, you got a college wrestler going to a body and putting down world champion striker. I mean, it's a really interesting match. And you look at the surreal fight. You look at the most dominant round, the most dominant fight in heavyweight championship history. It's hard to say those weren't his best. You know what? It wasn't my answer, though. Those are good ones, by the way. It wasn't my answer. If you want to find out what you're dealing with, if you want to really look at the enemy, there's a video out there online. Find it on YouTube. Jon Jones, champion of the world at the time, 205 pounds. Jon Jones is doing a signing at a grappling event. He's there and he says this huge event is going on. And there's a grappling tournament going on with the event. That might be a better way to word it. But Jon is minding his own business. He's signing autographs. I mean, he'd been drinking the night before. It was clear. This is not anything more than I'm Jon Jones and you guys, somebody paid me some money and here I am. Let me get your autographs, put my time in and get out of here. A guy walked up and challenged him. Now, this guy that walked up and challenged him isn't going to be as intimidating as, say, a Rampage Jackson or a Chael Sonnen or a Lyoto Machida that Jon had been in there with. I understand that. The guy was a brown belt. He was skilled. This was his area of expertise. And far and away above everything else is he knew it was going to happen. He knew Jon Jones was going to be there. He knew that if he could find the courage, he was going to walk up and challenge him. He warmed up. He cut weight, I would assume. He certainly trained. He was ready for a match. Jon Jones was not. And Jon Jones accepted. Walked onto the mat with a brown belt. Played with him like he was a child. Smiled. Let the guy go for things before pulling out and passing. There, come here. Hey, my son's on a headphone. Come here, quick, real quick, please. Son's on a headphone. You're wondering why I'm snapping at my boy over here. Hey, I need you quickly, son. So if Thayer and I are going to wrestle, this is how it's going to come out. Let's wrestle. Let's wrestle a little bit. Oh. You see me come out the back? Did you see me come out the back? Huh? But you saw me let him pull my head down. You saw me let him get close. You saw me hand fight, right? My little boy. Thank you, son. Thank you, son. I'm trying to prove a point. That's how that looks, right? That's what Jon did. Hung over without warming up against a brown belt, I believe under Eddie Bravo. And when it was done, the gentleman did not feel as though he had been clowned or he had been condescended to. Or he'd been played with, like I'm doing myself coming out the back door, hitting this beautiful duck under after I let him pull me down. He didn't feel like that. He felt honored. It looked as though the brown belt expected that to happen. It was a really interesting thing, but it's an interesting look into Jon. And it's just not something any other champion could do. Anyway, either gender. I don't believe if they showed up hungover to a grappling event and had somebody walk up to them who had that look in their eye who they didn't know. They don't know if that's the Abu Dhabi champ. Fighters don't fall. The guy could win 2 Abu Dhabis. We wouldn't have the foggiest idea. Abu Dhabi guy could walk in here right now and smack me. I wouldn't know who he is. Fighter has no idea. There's nobody that has a belt right now, either any division, either gender, that if they got walked up to by someone they didn't know and offered a bout sheet to walk onto a mat right now in front of the world for nothing. We got some tough boys and girls. Not one of them would have taken that challenge. Jon Jones walked out there half-cocked from the night before and played with him. And when people ask me what Jon's greatest performance was, could be a stretch. I might not win that argument. But that's the example that I give.